The orbital defense platforms above New Eden fell silent one by one, their massive frames reduced to drifting debris against the backdrop of humanity's most prosperous colony world. High Marshal Sarah Chen watched from the bridge of the UES Redemption as the Dominion's crystalline ships methodically dismantled humanity's last major defensive line in the Outer Rim. "Status report on the civilian evacuation," Chen demanded, her weathered face illuminated by the tactical displays showing countless red dots overwhelming the few remaining blue markers. 78% of the population has made it to the underground shelters. Lieutenant Rodriguez responded, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. But the Dominion's ground forces are advancing faster than predicted. They'll reach the main shelter complexes within 3 hours. Chen closed her eyes for a moment, the weight of command pressing down on her shoulders like a gravitational singularity. New Eden had been humanity's crowning achievement, a terraformed paradise hosting over 12 million colonists. Now it would become their greatest loss. Or so the Dominion would believe. "Initialize Protocol Ember," Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the gravity of the command. Around the bridge, her crew paused momentarily before executing the most classified military directive in human history. Deep beneath New Eden's surface, in chambers shielded by experimental quantum-dampening fields, millions of civilians weren't cowering in fear. They were being systematically transferred through hidden quantum gates to installations throughout the Kuiper Belt. The refugee shelters were elaborate stage props, filled with holographic signatures and automated distress signals. "Ma'am," Commander Wallace interrupted, "Dominion command ship is broadcasting on all frequencies. They're demanding our surrender." The main viewport shifted to display Supreme Commander Vorkath of the Dominion. The alien's crystalline exoskeleton refracted light in hypnotic patterns, its multiple sensory clusters focused intently on Chen. "Your resistance is admirably futile, Marshal Chen." Vorkath's translated voice resonated through the bridge. "We have conquered 37 spacefaring civilizations. All fell before us. All were integrated into the greater harmony of the Dominion. Surrender now, and your species will be granted the mercy of swift assimilation." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "You speak of harmony, Supreme Commander, but you understand so little about human nature. We don't break. We adapt. We evolve. And most importantly, we deceive." She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. "Execute final phase of Protocol Ember. Let's give them something to remember us by." Throughout New Eden's major cities, quantum-triggered charges detonated in precise sequences. To the Dominion sensors, it appeared as though the humans were destroying their own civilization rather than submitting to assimilation. The explosions were catastrophic, devastating, and entirely holographic. The real New Eden had been evacuated weeks ago, its cities slowly replaced with quantum-projected duplicates, while the actual infrastructure was dismantled and relocated. Even the atmospheric disturbances from the detonations were artificially generated by hidden quantum field generators. "Dominion fleet is pulling back," Rodriguez reported with satisfaction. "They're attempting to save their ground forces from the apparent destruction." "Signal the rest of the defense fleet," Chen ordered. "Begin our desperate last stand. Make it convincing, but ensure all ships have quantum fold coordinates for the rendezvous point." Over the next 6 hours, the remaining human forces fought a brilliant but doomed holding action. Ships sacrificed themselves in seemingly futile attempts to protect civilian centers that were already empty. Ground forces executed fighting retreats that drew Dominion troops into carefully orchestrated killing zones, only to be eventually overwhelmed. By the time Chen ordered the Redemption to make its last stand, the Dominion had committed over 60% of their invasion fleet to New Eden. They watched with satisfaction as the human flagship apparently self-destructed rather than surrender, its quantum signature vanishing from their sensors. In reality, the Redemption and the surviving human forces had quantum folded to a location beyond the edge of charted space. There, hidden in the vast expanse between stellar arms, humanity's true fleet was gathering. While the Dominion celebrated their victory and began the process of integrating a deserted world, engineers and scientists worked tirelessly to perfect weapons that would turn the crystalline biology of the invaders against them. Chen stood in the real bridge of the Redemption, now docked within an enormous hidden shipyard. Around her vessel, hundreds of ships were under construction, each incorporating lessons learned from every defeat, each powered by technologies the Dominion believed impossible for primitive humans to achieve. Status of Project Phoenix. She asked the holographic avatar of Dr. Emily Wong, humanity's leading expert in quantum mechanics and synobiology. The quantum resonance weapons are exceeding expectations, Wong's avatar responded with fierce pride. Initial tests show they can shatter Dominion crystalline structures at the molecular level. Their greatest strength will become their ultimate weakness. Chen nodded, studying the tactical displays showing the Dominion fleet dispersing to hunt for human remnants that didn't exist. How long until we're ready? 6 months to complete the fleet retrofits. The Dominion will spend that time consolidating their hold on empty worlds, spreading their forces thin trying to control an abandoned territory. Perfect. Chen allowed herself to fully smile for the first time since the invasion began. They think they've broken us, scattered us to the cosmic winds. They believe we're hiding in fear among the stars. She turned to face the assembled fleet commanders on the bridge. But humanity doesn't hide. We plan. We prepare. And when we strike back, the Dominion will learn why every species should fear the word human. In the vast shipyards around them, humanity's real war machine was awakening. The fall of New Eden wasn't an end. It was merely the beginning of the Dominion's nightmare. 6 months after the fall of New Eden, humanity's hidden fleet stirred to life in the vast shipyards of Operation Phoenix. Deep within the classified installation known as Haven, buried in a massive hollowed-out asteroid beyond the Kuiper Belt, High Marshal Chen stood before a holographic representation of known space, watching the movements of Dominion forces with predatory focus. They're stretched thin, just as we predicted. Admiral James Torres noted, his dark eyes reflecting the blue glow of patrol routes and garrison deployments. The Dominion has committed nearly 40% of their total military strength to occupying our supposedly conquered territories. Chen nodded, manipulating the display to highlight key strategic points. And how many of those territories are actually under their control? None, Dr. Wong answered, her avatar materializing beside them. The quantum hollows we left behind are still functioning perfectly. The Dominion thinks they're governing 12 billion humans across 17 worlds. In reality, they're maintaining elaborate prisons filled with sophisticated holograms and automated systems. The scope of humanity's deception was unprecedented. While the Dominion wasted resources administering phantom populations, the real human civilization had transformed itself into a nomadic armada. The Haven facility was just one of dozens of hidden installations, each containing millions of civilians living and working in vast underground cities. "Show me the Phoenix fleet status," Chen commanded. The holographic display shifted, revealing rows upon rows of newly constructed warships. They bore little resemblance to humanity's previous vessels. These were predators built specifically to hunt crystalline prey. The pride of the fleet, designated the Harbinger-class battleships, incorporated everything humanity had learned about their enemy. Their hulls were covered in quantum resonance amplifiers that could shatter Dominion ships at the molecular level. Their sensor suites were specifically tuned to detect and track crystalline biology across light years. Most importantly, they carried the weapon that would change the course of the war, the Symphony of Dissolution. Final testing of the Symphony weapons is complete, Dr. Wong reported, bringing up the test footage. The recording showed a captured Dominion scout ship being subjected to a carefully modulated quantum frequency. Within seconds, the crystalline vessel began to vibrate, its beautiful geometric patterns transforming into chaotic fractures before the entire ship disintegrated into cosmic dust. "Any countermeasures?" Chen asked, studying the footage intently. "None that we've discovered in their biology," Wong confirmed. The Dominion evolved from silicon-based crystalline life forms. Their entire technology, their ships, their weapons, everything is based on precisely arranged crystalline structures. The symphony disrupts those patterns at their most fundamental level. They can't adapt to it any more than humans could adapt to having our atomic bonds disrupted. Admiral Torres stepped forward, his expression grim. The weapon will work on their civilian populations as well. Their entire species is vulnerable. A heavy silence fell over the command center. The power to potentially extinct an entire civilization was not something humanity had ever possessed before. The weight of that responsibility pressed down on every soul present. "We are not them," Chen finally declared, her voice firm. "The symphony will be used on military targets only. We're fighting for survival, not genocide." The relief in the room was palpable. Humanity had walked right up to the moral event horizon and chosen to step back. "What about the quantum fold drives?" Chen asked, changing the subject. "Have we solved the detection issue?" Wang's avatar brightened. "Better than solved. We've turned it into an advantage. Watch this." The holographic display showed a recent test flight. The Phoenix vessel executed a quantum fold jump, but instead of simply disappearing and reappearing, it left behind a cascade of false signatures. We can now generate dozens of phantom signatures with every jump. The Dominion won't just be unable to track us. They'll be chasing ghosts across half the galaxy. Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Speaking of ghosts, how are our guests adapting?" The display shifted to show a different section of Haven. There, in specially designed habitats, lived several hundred Dominion defectors. They were members of conquered species who had been integrated into the Dominion against their will, their bodies forcibly transformed into crystalline hybrids. Many had been secretly helping humanity even before the invasion, providing crucial intelligence about Dominion weaknesses. The decrystallization process has been successful in 68% of cases, Wang reported. "We can now reverse the forced transformations, returning them to their original biological forms. Those we've helped are eager to assist in liberating their homeworlds. And the Dominion still has no idea. None. Their entire society is built on the belief that crystalline ascension is irreversible. The fact that we can undo it." Wang's avatar smiled. "Well, let's just say it's going to cause quite a stir in their empire." Chen turned to address the assembled command staff. "We've spent 6 months preparing, building, and planning. The Dominion believes they've conquered a broken, primitive species. They think we're hiding in caves and sewers, scrabbling for survival." She gestured to the magnificent fleet displayed before them. "It's time to show them how wrong they are." "Distribution of the fleet is complete," Torres reported. "All battle groups are in position near primary targets. The Symphony weapons are armed and calibrated. We await your command." Chen studied the tactical display one final time. Across supposedly occupied human space, Dominion forces maintained their patrols, blissfully unaware that they were guarding empty worlds. Their complacency would be their undoing. "Send the signal to all Phoenix units," Chen ordered, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's future. "Operation Phoenix Dawn begins at 600 hours tomorrow. Let's remind the galaxy why humanity should never be underestimated." Throughout the Haven facility, lights began pulsing with crimson urgency. The hidden fleet's engines ignited, preparing for humanity's greatest counter-offensive. In the darkness between stars, a force that the Dominion had dismissed as defeated was about to teach them the true meaning of fear. The Dominion fortress world of Crystallis Prime hung in space like a faceted jewel, its crystalline cities refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. Supreme Commander Vorkath stood in his command spire, multiple sensor clusters processing the regular reports from the human territories. The integration was proceeding exactly as planned. Resistance had been minimal, and the human populations were accepting their inevitable crystalline ascension with surprising docility. "Update from Settlement Zone 7, his subordinate announced. "Another successful conversion batch. Humans continue to display remarkable adaptability to the process." Vorkath's crystalline form vibrated with satisfaction. These humans were proving to be a valuable addition to the Dominion's collective. Their creativity and resourcefulness would serve the greater harmony well once fully integrated. The first warning came from the outer defense grid. A sensor buoy registered a quantum disturbance, then went silent. Vorkath dismissed it as a routine malfunction, until 12 more buoys died in rapid succession. Multiple contacts. The sensor operator's crystalline form resonated with alarm. Vessels of unknown configuration emerging from quantum space. The tactical display erupted with new signatures. Where moments before there had been empty space, now hundreds of warships appeared. Their hulls were dark, almost liquid in appearance, absorbing rather than reflecting light. They moved with impossible precision, their formations shifting like schools of predatory fish. Impossible, Vorkath whispered. The humans were broken. Their fleet was destroyed. High Marshal Chen's face appeared on the command spire's main display. Supreme Commander, she said with cold satisfaction, I believe we have some unfinished business. Before Vorkath could respond, the human fleet opened fire. But instead of conventional weapons, they unleashed something far more terrifying. Waves of quantum energy washed over the Dominion's defensive platforms. Where the energy touched crystalline matter, it began to resonate, vibrating at frequencies that shattered molecular bonds. The outer defense ring is disintegrating. The tactical officer's report ended in static as his own crystalline form began to vibrate in sympathy with the attack. Emergency protocols. Vorkath commanded, watching in horror as his supposedly invincible defenses crumbled to cosmic dust. Launch all squadrons. Contact Central Command for reinforcements. But the humans had planned for this. As Dominion ships rushed to meet the threat, phantom sensor contacts appeared throughout the system. The quantum fold signatures of the attacking fleet seemed to multiply exponentially, making it impossible to determine which targets were real and which were illusions. Aboard the UES Redemption, Chen watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. Status of Phase 1. Outer defenses neutralized. Admiral Torres reported. Their fleet is in disarray, unable to establish effective formation due to our quantum ghost signatures. Symphony weapons are performing beyond expectations. Signal the second wave, Chen ordered. Let's show them what humanity's been doing these past 6 months. From quantum space emerged another fleet, but these ships were different. They bore the crystalline architecture of Dominion vessels, but moved with distinctly human aggression. At their helm were the freed victims of Dominion integration, their knowledge of Dominion tactics combined with human ingenuity creating an unstoppable hybrid force. This is Commander Zarevek of the Liberation Fleet, a former Dominion officer announced on all frequencies. To all enslaved species within the Dominion, humanity has found a way to reverse crystalline integration. Freedom is possible. Rise up. Fight back. The age of the Dominion is over. The effect was electromagnetic. Throughout Crystallis Prime, thousands of integrated beings who had maintained their secret independence despite crystalline conversion began to act. Defense systems mysteriously failed. Shield generators powered down. Communication networks dissolved into chaos. Vorkath watched in mounting horror as his supposedly perfect system collapsed from within. How? He demanded, facing Chen's image. How did you accomplish this? You made a fundamental mistake, Supreme Commander, Chen replied. You assumed that because we couldn't match your technology, we were primitive. You never considered that we might find ways to turn your greatest strengths into weaknesses. The Symphony weapons continued their deadly work. Dominion ships that survived the initial assault found themselves unable to maintain structural integrity, their crystalline forms resonating themselves apart. The Liberation Fleet struck with precision at key military targets, careful to avoid civilian populations. Your defeat at New Eden was a deception, Chen continued. Those worlds you think you've conquered, empty. Those populations you believe you've integrated, holograms and automated systems, For 6 months, you've been occupying ghost worlds while we prepared for this moment. A new alert drew Vorkath's attention. Similar attacks were being reported across Dominion space. The supposedly conquered human worlds had suddenly erupted with Phoenix Fleet attacks, coordinated to strike simultaneously across thousands of light years. All Dominion forces, Chen broadcast on their command frequencies. You have 2 choices: surrender and accept decrystallization, returning to your original forms, or be destroyed. The human species will not be conquered. We will not be integrated, and we will not stop until every enslaved species in your empire is free. In the space above Crystallos Prime, the battle had become a rout. The Symphony weapons continued their inexorable work, reducing the once mighty Dominion fleet to clouds of glittering dust. The Liberation Fleet struck with surgical precision at military targets, while carefully coordinated quantum pulses disabled civilian infrastructure. Throughout conquered space, the Phoenix Fleet struck with simultaneous precision. The greatest empire in known space found itself fighting a war it had already assumed was won, against an enemy that had turned its own technology against it. Humanity's counter-strike had begun, and with it, the dissolution of the Dominion's power was inevitable. In the 3 weeks following the Battle of Crystallos Prime, the Dominion's empire began to fracture in ways its leaders had never thought possible. High Marshal Chen stood aboard the Redemption, watching real-time updates flow in from across conquered space. Each report confirmed what humanity had hoped for. Their carefully orchestrated plan was working perfectly. Another Dominion battle group has surrendered in the Vega sector, Admiral Torres reported. Their commander is requesting immediate decrystallization for his entire crew. That makes 17 capital ships in the last 48 hours alone. Chen nodded, studying the strategic display. The Dominion's mighty fleets were falling apart not through military defeat alone, but through a far more potent weapon: hope. The knowledge that crystalline integration could be reversed was spreading through their empire like a virus, shattering the foundation of fear that had kept countless species in line. Update from our intelligence networks. Dr. Wang's avatar appeared, her expression animated with excitement. The Dominion's central authority is in complete disarray. 3 members of their ruling council have already fled, taking significant portions of their fleet with them. The remaining leaders can't agree on a response to our offensive. The human counterattack had been designed to exploit not just military weaknesses, but cultural ones. The Dominion's entire society was built on the belief that crystalline ascension was both superior and irreversible. The demonstration that humans could not only resist the process, but reverse it had triggered a crisis of faith throughout their civilization. "Show me the status of Operation Whisper," Chen commanded. The tactical display shifted to show thousands of quantum transmission points scattered throughout Dominion space. Each represented a hidden resistance cell, activated after years of careful preparation. Long before the Dominion's invasion of human space, Earth's intelligence services had identified their greatest vulnerability: the forced converts. Every species they conquered and integrated represented a potential army of insurgents, if only they could be freed. While the Dominion had focused on external threats, humanity had spent years building a shadow network of allies within their empire. Resistance cells are active in 70% of occupied systems, Torres confirmed. The Dominion can't tell which of their integrated servants are still loyal and which are secretly working with us. They're paralyzed with paranoia. A priority alert flashed across the command deck. The display shifted to show footage from deep within Dominion space, massive crystalline cities dissolving into chaos as billions of enslaved beings realized their imprisonment might not be permanent. The Dominion's enforcer units found themselves unable to maintain order as their own members began to question their loyalty. Breaking news from the Dominion capital, Wang announced. Their Supreme Ruling Council is evacuating. Our Liberation Fleet in that sector reports they're not even bothering to maintain formation. It's a full rout. Chen allowed herself a brief smile. How many of their escape routes will lead them straight into our waiting task forces? All of them, Torres confirmed with satisfaction. The quantum fold signatures we leaked through our double agents are being followed exactly as predicted. They think they're using secret emergency protocols, but they're jumping right into our trap corridors. The Dominion's mighty empire was collapsing faster than anyone had anticipated. Their rigid, hierarchical structure, once a source of strength, had become a critical weakness. With their leadership in chaos and their core beliefs shattered, the entire system was falling apart from within. Message from the Liberation Fleet, Wong reported. The first wave of mass decrystallization procedures is complete. Over 2 million former Dominion subjects have been restored to their original forms. They're broadcasting proof across all frequencies, showing before and after evidence that can't be dismissed as human propaganda. The strategic implications were staggering. Every successfully decrystallized being became living proof that the Dominion had lied, that their promises of evolutionary perfection were false. But more importantly, they represented hope to trillions still trapped in crystalline form. We're receiving thousands of new surrender requests, Torres added. Not just military units, entire planetary governments are asking for liberation. They're turning on their Dominion overlords before we even arrive in their systems. Chen studied the tactical display, watching as more and more Dominion territory descended into revolution. Their greatest weapon hadn't been the symphony devices or the quantum fold technology. It had been the truth. The simple demonstration that crystalline integration could be reversed had done more damage than any fleet action. Signal all Phoenix Fleet units, Chen ordered. Begin Phase 4 of the operation. Priority is protecting surrendered populations from loyalist reprisals. I want liberation corridors established to every major population center that's requested our help. What about the Dominion leadership still trying to maintain control? Torres asked. Chen's expression hardened. They made their choice when they rejected our initial surrender offer. Continue targeted symphony strikes on military assets. Let them experience the fear they've inflicted on others for so long. Throughout conquered space, the carefully planted seeds of rebellion blossomed into full revolution. Species that had been enslaved for generations rose up against their crystalline masters, armed with the knowledge that their condition was not permanent. The Dominion's attempt to crush humanity had instead given birth to its own destruction. Update from Earth, Wong announced with barely contained joy. The first wave of civilian transports is emerging from hiding. The quantum hollow projections in our supposedly conquered worlds are being deactivated. The Dominion's greatest victory is evaporating before their eyes. Chen nodded, watching as humanity's massive deception was finally revealed in full. Send word to all resistance cells and Liberation Fleet units. Phase 4 is authorized. Let's finish this. The war wasn't over, but its outcome was no longer in doubt. The Dominion's empire of fear was shattering, and from its fragments, a new alliance of free species was emerging, with humanity leading the way. Above the crystalline world of Centaurus, the last stronghold of Dominion power, the final battle of the war unfolded. Supreme Archon Valthor, the ultimate authority of the Dominion, had gathered every remaining loyalist ship for one desperate last stand. The crystalline fleet formed a defensive sphere around their capital world, their formation perfect in its geometric precision and utterly predictable to human tactical analysts. High Marshal Chen stood on the Redemption's bridge, surrounded by representatives from 24 formerly enslaved species. Each had been restored to their original form through humanity's decrystallization process. Each had a score to settle with the empire that had stripped them of their identity. All Liberation Fleet units report ready, Admiral Torres announced. Symphony weapons are calibrated for military targets only. Quantum corridors are established for civilian evacuation. Chen nodded, her expression solemn. Open a channel to the Dominion command. The holographic display flickered to life, showing Supreme Archon Valthor in his crystalline throne chamber. His form was larger and more elaborate than any other Dominion being, countless facets and spires creating a cathedral-like appearance that had once inspired awe. Now it seemed merely gaudy, a monument to false superiority. You have defied the natural order. Valthor's translated voice boomed. For 10,000 years, the Dominion has guided lesser species toward crystalline perfection. We are evolution itself. We cannot be defeated by primitives who reject ascension. Look around you, Supreme Archon. Chen replied calmly. Your empire is gone. Your enslaved populations are free. Your philosophy of forced evolution has been exposed as nothing more than technological tyranny. Surrender now, and we'll ensure your people have a place in the new galactic order. Never. Valthor's form pulsed with rage. If we cannot rule, we will die as gods. Initiate the Harmony Protocol. Throughout the Dominion fleet, crystalline structures began to resonate at new frequencies. Their ships started to merge, geometric patterns interlocking to form larger and larger structures. Within minutes, the entire defensive fleet had transformed into a single massive crystalline entity, with Valthor's consciousness at its center. By the stars, Torres whispered. The power readings are off the scale. The crystalline megastructure pulsed with energy, sending waves of forced integration energy across space. Any organic matter caught in the field would be instantly crystallized, transformed into extensions of Valthor's will. But humanity had planned for even this. Execute Operation Requiem, Chen ordered. Across the Liberation Fleet, specially modified symphony weapons activated in perfect synchronization. Instead of destroying crystalline matter, they began to broadcast a complex quantum frequency that Dr. Wong had discovered in her research, the exact resonance pattern of original, pre-integration Dominion biology. The effect was immediate and devastating. The massive crystalline structure shuddered as ancestral memories awakened within its matrix. The Dominion species had not evolved naturally into crystalline forms. They had engineered themselves millennia ago, driven by a misguided quest for perfection. The symphony frequencies were reminding their crystalline forms of what they once had been. Their structure is destabilizing, Wong reported excitedly. The resonance is triggering a cascading reversion effect. It's spreading through their entire command network. Valthor's voice boomed across space, but now it was tinged with fear. What are you doing to us? Showing you the truth, Chen replied. Your species wasn't born in crystalline form. You modified yourselves, then convinced countless others to follow your path. But the original pattern of your biology still exists within your crystalline matrix. We're not destroying you. We're reminding you of who you really are. The massive structure began to fragment, not into destruction but into transformation. Throughout its crystalline mass, organic forms began to emerge. The original Dominion species was being reborn, their bodies returning to the form they had abandoned thousands of years ago. Multiple surrender signals, Torres announced. The entire defensive grid is powering down. Their ground installations are going silent. Chen watched as the transformed Dominion beings were safely transported aboard Liberation Fleet vessels. Valthor himself, now returned to his species' original form, stood on the Redemption's bridge under guard. He looked smaller now, almost frail, but his eyes showed something that had been missing in his crystalline form, genuine emotion. What happens now? The former Supreme Archon asked quietly. Now we rebuild, Chen replied. Not as conquerors or conquered, but as equals. Humanity's victory here isn't about defeating the Dominion. It's about freeing everyone, including your own people, from the prison of forced perfection. In the days that followed, the last pockets of Dominion resistance surrendered. The Liberation Fleet moved from system to system, offering the choice of peaceful decrystallization to all who wanted it. Most accepted, though some chose to remain in crystalline form, a choice that was respected, as long as they swore to never force the transformation on others. 1 month after the Battle of Centaurus, representatives from over 50 species gathered on neutral ground to sign the Galactic Concordat. The document established a new interstellar alliance based on principles of self-determination and mutual defense. Humanity, as the architects of liberation, was offered a leadership role, but Chen had a different proposal. "We don't seek to replace one empire with another," she announced to the gathered delegates. "Instead, let each species bring its unique strengths to our alliance." The Dominion failed because they believed uniformity meant perfection. We know better. It's our differences that make us strong. The former Supreme Archon, now serving as a representative of his transformed people, was the first to sign the Concordat. "We sought to perfect the galaxy by making everyone the same," he admitted. "Humanity showed us a better way. By embracing diversity, by turning apparent weakness into strength, by proving that adaptation is superior to forced evolution." As the various delegates formalized the new alliance, Chen stood with her fellow human leaders, watching the dawn of a new era. The quantum hollow projectors that had fooled the Dominion were being repurposed as communication networks. The symphony weapons were being modified for peaceful applications in medicine and research. The Liberation Fleet was transforming into an exploration force. "Not bad for a primitive species," Torres remarked with a smile. Chen nodded, thinking of how far they'd come from those desperate days after the fall of New Eden. "We never needed to become crystalline to evolve. Humanity's greatest strength was never in our technology or our weapons. It was in our ability to adapt, to deceive, to turn defeat into opportunity." She smiled. "And most importantly, to show mercy even to those who didn't show it to us." Above them, the stars seemed brighter somehow, as if reflecting the hope of countless freed worlds. The age of the Dominion was over. The age of collaboration had begun, and humanity, the species that had dared to resist perfection in favor of progress, would help light the way forward.